All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I guess the post-mortem edition, if you want to put it that way, because that was a horrible game. And I've seen a lot of horrible games, but that was a horrible game. The episode tonight is called Right Back Where We Started From, an old 70s hit. Not Marilyn McCoo. Who is this? What is this woman's name? God, I can picture it too. It'll come to me middle of the show. It'll suddenly come to me who this woman was. Um, but anyway, because it feels like we're right back where we started from. We're right back to the beginning of the season after the Green Bay game. The offensive line is trash. Carr got hurt. Michael Thomas got knocked out in the first series. Marshon Lattimore gets hurt. And this team was about as healthy as they've been in the past 3 years, going into a game to play a Vikings team that had a lot of people hurt, had a lot of question marks at running back, at quarterback. I mean, you didn't even have Justin Jefferson out there. If Justin Jefferson was out there, he probably hangs 40 points on you. He probably looks like how in 2015 when Odell Beckham played the Saints when he was with the Giants, and he scored like 3 touchdowns in that game. I mean, it was a pathetic performance all the way around. As thank you, Maxine Nightingale. Thank you. I knew my brother, of course, remembers it because he probably remembers the K-Tel album we had this song on. But yeah, it's just one of those games where it felt like they couldn't do anything right. They couldn't block, they couldn't run the ball, and what really was bad about it was the wheels came off the minute Moreau got called for that holding call.
Yeah.
Because Alvin Kamara was blowing through that defense. I thought in the first couple of series we were going to get a 6-touchdown performance out of Alvin Kamara because he was blowing through some people. I mean, how did you see this game?
Yeah, the way they opened up on offense, the way Alvin Kamara opened up on offense, I was really encouraged because the defense they got their ass torn through again for really the 5th consecutive week, and we'll get into that in a little bit. It looked like one of those games where Kamara was going to single-handedly keep the team in it, at least late. And then, like you said, Moreau's holding penalty or Moreau's penalty, set the team behind the sticks, and the wheels just completely came off after that. This team didn't show up to play. I believe the opening line in my article yesterday was, the Saints decided to take 2 consecutive bye weeks because they sure as hell didn't come to play. Against the Minnesota Vikings, sure as hell not in the first half. And it was a downright embarrassing performance. And listen, I was one of many that predicted a fairly easy Saints win, but at the same time, I was cautioning people. I was like, you have to consider Dennis Allen teams have only won 3 in a row once. You only have to look as far back as the Green Bay game when Green Bay was missing 6 starters. And Minnesota was coming into this one with a 3rd-string quarterback that's played with 5 different teams and have only been with the Vikings for a week and a half. Minnesota was down, their one B or number two rusher, however you want to look at it, and lost
Mhm.
their number one rusher in the first half. They were down their all-pro wide receiver. They were down their the number two wide out, KJ Osborne. He's been number two since Jefferson's been out. The tight end was banged up. Their Pro Bowl left tackle was banged up, and yet the Saints turned in an absolutely embarrassing performance. And I think they should be. I hope they're embarrassed, because that might be the only hope for this team. Is that they are embarrassed and want to play their asses off for the rest of the year. I know, Alan. I'm embarrassed to cover this team right now. I won't mince words. I'm flat out embarrassed to cover them.
Yeah, I mean, it's to quote Jim Moore, horseshit performance, horseshit. I mean that's what he said about the Saints '92. That's what they said there. I thought the worst drive of the entire game for the Vikings against the Saints defense was when they made it 17-3. They went down in 5 plays of 20 plus yards on every single play. And it wasn't guys missing a tackle and all of a sudden now we let somebody out the back door. No, it was guys wide open, college level wide open. Nobody even around them. And they're catching these passes. Just boneheaded mistakes like Granderson jumping off sides, and giving up a free play. Rashid Shaheed lining up off sides, to kill another big play. Just stupid penalties. And look, everyone wants to blame the coaches. Everybody wants to blame, the offensive coordinator and stuff like that. But let me tell you something. I have seen this team play like this when Sean Payton was in charge and Drew Brees was on the field. I have seen them lay eggs. In 2011, they lost to the 0-8 Rams in a terrible performance. And we used to always say, oh, look, there's just one of those games that, the Payton's team throws a clunker out every so often. And that was just a clunker, and he gets it better the next time around. But this is guys, and I even wrote this. Look like it to me. Didn't like a talented team at all to me. Looked like a team of very mediocre players across the board. Just guys not focused on their jobs and not doing what they're supposed to do. They had an emotional game by emotional comment by Malcolm Roach, who is one of the players who every time he's out there, he is giving it all, his all.
Yes.
I'm not going to say he's, they're all quitters or anything like that, because they're not quitters. It's just they're not mentally in the game until it's too late. I don't know if they're not preparing themselves enough during the week, doing the film work they're supposed to do. Because they act like when they get out there, they've never seen this guy before. They've never seen this team do these things before. And that's unacceptable, because, as a former teacher, you can teach students, you can teach them, this is what the test's going to be on. This is, this is stuff you're going to need to know. Mark this down. You will be tested on this. You do all those things. Then you get the test out, and these kids act like, you never told us that. I don't know nothing about that. I didn't see that before. We didn't talk about this in class. Yeah, we did. You either had your head down on the desk or you didn't study when you were at home, which is what I don't think this team has been doing consistently, is studying the opponents and learning their tendencies so they're out there. And that's unprofessional. Some people, I can hear people right now saying, well, yeah, but that's coaching. Coaching is supposed to make you do this. Yeah, it is. But there comes to a point where your team leaders and your professional players have to take ownership. They can't spoon feed you. You're grown effing men. They can't spoon feed you. They can't tie you down and put paper clips over your eyes and make you look at the tablets and study all the plays. You can't make them do that. They have to do this. And to me, this is a moment. If you don't turn this around, this is a moment where you start telling players, you know what? I don't care how talented you are. You're gone. You're gone. You're gone. Because I'd rather have less talented players, and Malcolm Roach is a good example, a less talented player who busts his ass on every play than a extremely talented player who's out there coasting because he won't put the work in to do the things he's supposed to do to be successful. And that's kind of how I feel about this team right now. I feel like that they've got a lot of talent on this team that's not playing up to their potential, and it's showing out there in the field.
100% accurate. And listen, I'm a coach, yeah, and I'll always think with a coach's mentality, and I'm as critical of these coaches for the Saints as anybody. But I've also thrown out the whole time, it's still the player's job to execute. That's what they're paid to do. That's what they're expected to do. And I saw your good, bad, and ugly post, as I enjoy reading it, win, lose, or draw.
Thank you.
You have you have a little bit more freedom to be negative than I do. Yeah, I push the envelope. I've been warned more than a few times. Warned, corrected, edited, whatever, all of the above. But I'm in agreement with you. I'm like, yeah, and we keep hearing, and we keep saying it too. Oh yeah, these Saints are more talented than this team and more talented than that team, and you should be talented to do this. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I've now come around to, I still believe in the talent, physical talent that's on this team, but they sure as hell aren't playing like it. And when you get your butt whipped more than a few times, it's now become a trend, and a trend that makes you question how talented this team really is. How much does this team really want to win? Yes, a lot of it is on coaches. Dennis Allen, is arguably, I'm not going to say he's the worst coach in the NFL, but he's in the top three. Same with Pete Carmichael at offensive coordinator. But it's the players on the field that are getting whipped in one-on-one battles. When they are asked to take on their man one-on-one, they're getting beaten. Whether it's the defensive players, whether it's the offensive players, whether it's making idiotic pre-snap mistakes or post-whistle mistakes, that's not something professionals do. And like you said, these guys aren't acting like professionals. Not even the leaders on the team have stepped up.
No.
We've seen a slight difference in play when we've heard that an Alvin Kamara or a Michael Thomas has addressed the team, usually quiet guys. But one of the things that you've always been able to lean on with this team, even in hard times, were the leadership in this locker room, the leadership in this huddle will pull this team together. And more often than not, that's been the case. That has not been the case over the last year and a half. Where are the voices of the Cam Jordans, the Demario Davises, et cetera, or if they're using their voices, then it's clearly having zero effect on the team. And when your best players cannot get motivated, whether it's self-motivation, and it should be at this level, whether it's self-motivation or outside motivation, whether it's getting your ass kicked every other week, lighting a fire under you, or your coaches or your team leaders, getting under your skin, none of that is having any effect. And and we both hate to make the comparison of the last coach that was here, but Sean Payton didn't deal with any of that stuff. He would sit a guy that was more talented than his backup, just to make a point, or to try to light a fire under the guy. And if that didn't work, then the guy was gone. A player like Dante Stallworth comes to mind instantly. But we could cite plenty of other examples. As a coach myself, there have been plenty of times where I've I've sat, a team star for the sake of the team, or to prove a point to either that player, or make an example to the rest of the team. And that's another area, one of many areas where this coaching staff is falling short, is that we're not seeing that either. That's why we're seeing the same old bullshit week in and week out.
Yeah, and that's where you're right. That's where coaching is failing this team. Is Dennis Allen is not holding people accountable enough. And what I mean by accountable is benching them. You bench Trevor Penning, okay, but you benched him for poor play, not because of bad attitude. You
Mm-hmm.
benched Andres Pete in the beginning of the season. You benched him because of poor play. You didn't bench him because of attitude. Um, Now it's time to start benching people because of attitude. I would have benched Chris Olave a couple weeks ago, probably about 3
Yeah.
weeks ago, when he was giving up on routes. I'm
Yep.
benching him, and that's what uh, that's the kind of stuff he needs to do. To send a message, a fire across the bow. Um, you start benching starters, and but he's not a motivational coach, and that's part of his problem. He's an X's
Mm-hmm.
and O's coach. He knows football backwards and forwards. He knows the game. He is a genius when it comes to defensive game planning.
Mm-hmm.
um but it's not that's not what all a head coach does. You want somebody with that kind of brain, but you also need someone who is a taskmaster, who knows
Mm-hmm.
how to get in a player's head and do things. I tell I tell this story all the time about Bill Parcells messing with Lawrence Taylor's head all the time. You know, Lawrence Taylor is a Hall of Fame player. Yeah, he was a cokehead, but he was a Hall of Fame player. And part of the reason he was a Hall of Fame player is because Parcells never got off of him. He was always on his ass. And he would have all-star guys. Uh, Jumbo Elliott would come to the sideline, or Mark Pavaro would come to the sideline, and if they just made a mistake on the field, a holding call or something like that, Bill Parcells would stand there with his arms folded and would look at these guys coming off the field and say, we could probably do a lot more if some of these guys get their head out of their ass,
Mm-hmm.
you know, right to these players so they could hear it. And Dennis Allen is not that kind of coach, and I think that is the biggest reason why they aren't they're not consistent on the
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you're going to have an X's and O's guy, a mental guy as your head coach, then you better have some fiery coordinators or fiery assistants. And they don't. You don't see any fire at all throughout this team. And as a result, the fiery players, the Cam Jordans, the Demario Davises, the Michael Thomases, they look empty right now. Am I wrong? That's what I
well,
see.
they're not getting to their teammates. They're not getting through to their teammates. I said a long time ago and there's Tyrann Mathieu right there. When they lost Malcolm Jenkins in replacement Tyrann Mathieu, they lost a huge void in
Yeah.
leadership. Malcolm Jenkins was a leader that held people accountable. Um, you know, they it's people just not doing their jobs, and you don't have a coach who can get in the player's head and figure out how to turn that motor on. And that's the difference between a great coach and a good coach or a poor coach. Um, and I think that's where Dennis Allen is failing. Is Dennis Allen and Curtis Johnson was a fiery coach. Curtis
Yeah.
Johnson would be on the receivers' asses all the time about being in perfect alignment as far as their spacing, their landmarks, all that stuff. And look how long it took them to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, Drew Brees was a leader on the field, but Drew Brees commanded so much respect. And unfortunately, I think Drew Brees covered up for a lot of holes on this team.
Clearly.
I mean, the offensive line, Drew Brees covered up for shortcomings on defense. He just he figured out ways to overcome stuff just by his pure intelligence on the field, that he was going to know what plays to make to keep the game in focus. One guy on Twitter, it's Deuce Wyndham. He put a still picture up. He said he was watching the All 22, and it amazed him how both quarterbacks missed wide open targets consistently.
All year long.
Yeah, both quarterbacks make the same kind of mistakes.
Hmm.
Um, at one point, Anna asked, who tells Winston to throw in triple coverage on a deep ball? Well, that's the Jameis Winston experience.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting. Like I said in my good, bad, and ugly, get Jameis Winston's your quarterback is like getting on a roller coaster with no safety features on it whatsoever. It's going to give you a lot of thrills, a lot of excitement, but at the end of the ride, your car is in a ravine, smoldering, and their bodies scattered because that's how it ends. You bring the team back to within a score, 8 points. You have three opportunities, three drives that you could possibly do something, and two of those three you throw interceptions, and damn near threw two more.
Yeah.
One guy dropped one, and the other one, A.T. Perry, made an incredible. It was a Rashid Shaheed type of thing, an incredible strength to show he was going to fight to get that ball back,
Hmm.
and that saved that interception because there's a still shot. There's the Vikings cornerback who ends up covering that play when Perry's standing by himself. He's standing about the S, the top of the S, in the word Vikings in the end zone. And you can see in the still shot Winston getting ready to fire that ball across the field, which is a huge no-no, but
Yeah.
fire that ball across the field. And I said, if I could caption this picture, it would be this crazy mofo's about to try and make this pass. I can't believe this. So, of course, he jumps on it because I don't care how fast you can throw that football. He's the distance wise. That thing went 45 yards across the field. He's going to beat it. It's like trying to beat the tag. He's going to get it. So, whatever. Just a great play by A.T. Perry. But
Yeah.
I just, the whole time I'm just like, oh my God. Oh my God. That's all I say every time he goes back to throw. Oh my God,
Hmm.
no! you know. Uh, all right, that's my rant on this team because the bad part about this is the entire NFC South sucks. I mean, Atlanta's winning the whole time, but they found a way to lose. Tampa. They won their game, but they play the 49ers this week. So they're going to get destroyed. Even if the 49ers are playing badly.
Hmm.
Um, I watched a lot of different football. No, Carmichael's not calling the gunslinger plays. Now, he is calling four verticals, okay? But
Hmm.
the idea is you've got a safety valve underneath, and it's up to the quarterback to make the right read on the play. And neither Carr nor Winston make the right reads. Carr does a check down because he holds the ball too long, but Winston has the attitude of I got the arm strength, I'm gonna make them throws,
Yeah.
and that's how you end up 30 for 30
Yeah.
because that's what uh, uh, you do 30 for 30 because you feel like you can make every deep throw out there and you just can't. They're not giving that to you. It's nothing deep, nothing cheap.
Yeah.
And
And by the way, when Carr is taking those checkdowns, as you pretty much just pointed out, because he's holding the ball too long, he's making that checkdown decision too late, and the defense has already reacted to Kamara or whoever the checkdown option is. And the pass either goes for a minimal gain or a loss, or gets broken up. I mean, this is. Thank God for the New York Giants. Otherwise, this might be the ugliest offense, in the NFL.
well, and the funny thing is too, when he does go to the check down right away, he goes to it too soon
Yeah.
because someone's coming open. So it's like you can't win. And part of it, I feel, and this is going to like I'm defending Carr too much, but part of it I feel is his lack of confidence in that offensive line. Um, it makes him jumpy. It makes him either hold the ball too long or get rid of it quickly because he just doesn't trust what's in front of him right now. And I think that's all part and parcel of it. When he feels comfortable enough to throw the ball, he does a pretty good job. He's thrown for 300 yards 3
Mm-hmm.
straight games.
Mm-hmm.
He looked good. 2 weeks ago against the Colts, or 3 weeks ago against the Colts, he looked okay against the Bears. Not horrible, but not. He threw 2 touchdown passes early. It seemed like they kind of had something going, and then to see the offensive line fall apart the way it did, it just. So many wrong that replacing coaches isn't enough. You got to replace players now too. And I'm not
Yes.
talking about replacing quarterbacks. I'm talking about replacing offensive linemen. I'm talking about replacing defensive
Yes.
linemen, safeties. I'm talking about, you got to start kicking asses around here and getting different players in here with different leadership. Just because I think the leaders on this team feel like they're talking to a blank wall sometimes because it's not registering with them.
Yeah.
I,
No, I think that's very clear. And I mean, yeah, individually, yeah, Demario Davis is still playing pretty well. I mean, it looks like I think he's lost a step. But he's still a top tier player. Marshon Lattimore still a very good player. Michael Thomas still a very good player. But and again, this all circles back to what you were saying before about the lack of professionalism throughout this team. It shouldn't be on Davis, Cam, Thomas, whomever. It shouldn't be on them to also play well, in addition to making your teammates play well. It should be on them. I don't think there's too many people out there that are going to doubt the individual talents of Chris Olave. Chris Olave is a great example. We hate to keep throwing him under the bus, but he's a microcosm of this team. All the talent in the world, flashes it occasionally. When he does, there's no team, no defender, no defense that can match up with him. But then there's other times that he looks like he should be warming the bench for a JV team.
yeah. Dante Stallworth is a good example, a good comparison because he's got a lot of Dante Stallworth in him.
Yeah.
I like Cody Burns, but I feel like right now I'd rather Curtis Johnson dealing with him.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
Curtis Johnson would be the dog eat dog, and Chris Olave would have a milk bone underwear because he would be on him all the time. Scream. He wouldn't even call him by his name. He'd be number 12.
Yeah.
And he'd be making comments all the time about I don't know if you deserve that number 12. I don't know if you deserve that number because you're not playing like a 12. You're playing more like an 89 or something, a derogatory number, or you playing more like an 81. You're not playing like a 12. You're playing like an 81 or an 89. Because there are times where Chris Olave, like you said, looks like an elite player, that he was well worth all the picks we gave up to get his ass. And there are other times he looks like a Keith Kirkwood level player, or Austin Carr level player. I look at him and I'm like going, I'm not impressed with this clown at all.
No.
He doesn't fight for the ball, doesn't sacrifice his body. He's afraid to get his damn jersey dirty half the time. That's how he plays, like a guy who's afraid to get his jersey dirty. And then this is on the same damn team as Michael Thomas going out there killing himself to make plays. Or Taysom Hill, he's got blood on his arm, he's got bruises, and he is running over people. And he just pops up and smiles, after he does that. And that's, there's a lot of Chris Olaves on this team. Guys who are extremely talented. I'll throw Marshon Lattimore in the bus on that one too, because I think Marshon Lattimore turns it on and turns it off. He takes plays off when he feels like it, because he's so confident in his ability, and that's been his problem throughout his entire career. When the cameras are on and he's playing against a top receiver, he's going to turn it on. But I was thanking God Justin Jefferson wasn't playing, because I'm like, he's going to tear Lattimore up. Because Lattimore is not going to be prepared. Who I think is the best cornerback on this team right now? Paulson Adebo.
Oh, I agree.
That's a guy who's busting his ass and playing every week.
So and Paulson was one of the few defenders that did play well on Sunday. That's going to get overlooked, rightfully overlooked, because of the onslaught that this defense gave up. But I thought Paulson Adebo played well. I thought Alontae Taylor played pretty well too. But outside of that, Demario Davis gave some nice effort, but that front seven was just so overwhelmed. The defensive line was dominated in the trenches. Dobbs was running crazy out there. We keep, and you pointed it out, pre-show, we keep hearing from Dennis Allen and, from the defensive players, we got to scheme these mobile quarterbacks differently. All right, you say it, but not a damn thing changes on the field. You look like a bunch of 5-year-olds out on the playground chasing a squirrel, where you're going everywhere and nobody is staying disciplined whatsoever. That's the best example I could put for it. Because Josh Dobbs, his mobility concerned all of us coming in. I for one, on Brendan Boylan and I do a pregame on PSF. I for one put out there, no, I don't think you need to spy a guy like Josh Dobbs, because you've been using guys like Pete Werner who have just who can't athletically match up, and the spies, whether it's Davis, Warner, or a safety, the spies are taking poor angles. So what I would do is bring a lot of interior blitzes and keep my outside rushers disciplined. Neither of those things happened. And what happened? Joshua Dobbs ran them all over the yard again.
And I know my daughter, I can hear my daughter screaming, because we're both saying during the game, number 71 for the Vikings was holding every friggin' play.
Yeah.
I saw it. Saw it. But you've got to figure out a way to draw attention. Scream and do a flop. Do something. Rip your own damn jersey and say, hey, look, he's got part of my jersey. Whatever it takes to get the flags thrown. When you're rushing him, hold his hand to your jersey, and then kind of like you're trying to fight him off, so the official sees the jersey get pulled. Nobody's Jim Burt anymore. And for those of y'all who don't know who the hell that is, Jim Burt was a defensive lineman in the 80s for the Giants, number 64. His jersey was so tight that the 6 and the 4 were stretched out like this, so it was like 6 way out there and the 4 way out there, because he didn't want people holding them. So, and back then, the way the jerseys were made, your hands would just slide off these things. You try and grab them because the pads were so big, and he would basically, they also used to put Vaseline on the jerseys too,
Hmm.
make it even harder to hold, that your hand would slide when you try and grab the
Hmm.
jerseys. The league stopped all that crap, unfortunately. But yeah, that's what defensive linemen used to do to counteract offensive linemen holding so much. Um, but yeah, you've got to draw attention to this. And my frustration was, okay, Cam is doing his job. He's containing the outside. Brzee is doing his job on this play. He's containing the outside, but Granderson goes too far in, then lets him
Yep.
out.
Yep.
Or Saunders or someone else goes too far up the field and lets the guy out. And that's when they finally, and it seems like it takes them 4 quarters to do this, but when they finally contain them, then all of a sudden he can't do anything. All of a sudden they're
Hmm.
sacking, and how do you let Hawkinson do what he did? And it's not like Hawkinson made these incredibly contested catches where I can say, okay, you did what you could. He is wide open,
Yep.
wide open. How do you let that happen? And I saw this last week against the Bears. It's like they rush 4, everyone peels back, and suddenly now the whole middle of the field is open until the fourth quarter when they figure out, what, we better sit on these underneath routes.
Yep.
And suddenly now their offense can't run the ball, can't move the ball because you're now sitting on the damn underneath routes. Oh my God. And that's a scheme problem. That's
Yeah.
coaching there. But your players not doing what they're supposed to do is also impacting this. So it's a
Yeah.
combination of the two.
And yeah, I've gotten into some. I've gotten real happy with the block button on Facebook. Especially lately. Because and I'm talking to certain Facebook idiots that that are unwilling or unable to tune into shows like this. So please, you loyal viewers of Under the Dome and Bayou Blitz, you know the type of people I'm talking about. So pass this along. This is for the idiots that want to blame everything on Pete Carmichael, who want to blame everything on the offense. This defense for the last 5 weeks has been trash, flat out trash. They've been getting turnovers with the exception of this last week. But for the last 5 games, this defense has averaged giving up 244 yards and 19 points, 58% third down conversions. That's in the first half. The offense saved their ass against the Bears. The offense saved their ass against the Colts. And then the defense won the game with that avalanche of turnovers against the Bears. You put yourself in a hole against the Texans you couldn't climb out of. Put yourself in a hole against the Jaguars you couldn't climb out of. And we've been talking about the Vikings debacle all night long. Idiots on Facebook have been trying to tell me, the defense is tired from too many 3-and-outs. Look at the time of, and Alan, you focus on time of possession. I focus on number of plays, but usually they both equal out to be the same. The Saints actually had the advantage in both in a number of those last 5 games. That's A. And B, those were first half statistics that I just gave you folks. First half. No, it's 3 and 4 straight 3-and-outs by the offense, and that defense still isn't going to get fatigued in the first half. That's a late third quarter, fourth quarter problem. The offense. Don't get me wrong, the offense is not doing their job, and they've been beyond awful most of this season too. But this defense is a real problem right now. They can't rush the passer. They can't deal with mobile quarterbacks. They're starting to get gashed in the running game. They don't know, if the last 2 or 3 weeks is any indication, they forgot how to cover tight ends. They don't make any adjustments, whether it's the players on the field or the coaches on the sideline. They don't make any adjustments until it's too late. So don't tell me that this offense, if it weren't for this offense, this team would be 7-2 or whatever. Now this defense has been just as awful in the last month.
Yeah, and again, I think it's because you've got guys not doing what they're supposed to do. They're not doing the film study they're supposed to do because I honestly think they do come up with a good scheme to deal with mobile quarterbacks, but the players aren't executing worth a
Yeah.
damn. Um, like I said, you've got too many freelancers out there. You got too many guys who are trying to get the sacks or trying to think they can make a play and not running the defense. Because that's, yeah, you have some adjustments, but really, there's nothing that they're doing as an adjustment that they didn't do in the first half. It's just this time they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem I have schematically with the defense, especially in the first half, is you're giving up this huge cushion of 5 and 10 yards off the ball. So you're giving them 5, 7 yards every play.
Yeah.
So now it's 2nd and 3, 3rd and 1.
Mm-hmm.
You can't win games like that. That's how you get a 58% third down conversion rate. That's how you
Mm-hmm.
win the time of possession. Because I say it every single week. If you get an opposing offense in 2nd and long, 3rd and long, you should win that game, and the defense is getting off the field. But they're not doing it. They're
Yep.
hoping for a penalty to get 3rd and long. Or they
Right.
just try and pass rush and get a sack. That's not the key. The key is when the quarterback tries to throw the short pass, you knock it down or you tackle them immediately. And what's even crazier is that's exactly how the other team is playing our offense.
Yep.
That's what drives me insane. They're doing the thing that our defense should be doing. I wish the other defense would play off. I wish they would give us the underneath stuff because I'll take that all day long.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving that away until we suddenly realize, you know what? Hey, they're getting all kinds of cheap yardage. If we tackle them early or knock these passes down so it's 2nd and 10 or longer, suddenly we have a much better chance of getting off the field on 3rd down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's here as a defensive player, and it's here as a coach that you're not scheming it right. So it's both of them. It's both of them, and it drives me crazy every week. I can't take it. If there's anything that makes me frustrated, I don't give a damn if this offense is boring. I'll take boring football for 17 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with throwing 10 passes in a game and running the ball 35 times a ball game. I saw that kind of football before. I have no problem with that. So boring doesn't bother me. Bad football bothers me. Dumb football. You're not playing to your capabilities. That's what bothers me.
Yep.
I knew watching Mike Dicka's teams that we just aren't on a good team. So I could deal with that. I would hope we could pull an upset, but I knew we were outclassed in most games. We're not outclassed in most games. We're just not playing to our capability. And that's compounded by the way we're coaching the game, because we're coaching scared, or we're trying to cater to these players that keep making stupid mistakes. So all right. So I think we vented enough. People are dropping off. Like, you're just repeating yourself over and over and over again. But yeah, that's you're hitting the block button on Facebook. I'm hitting the block button on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, because I'm tired of reading people saying stupid shit like we should fire everybody during the bye week. I mean, that's just stupid. It's stupid. You can fire everybody the day the season's over with, but you can't fire them during the season. And it's not keep doing what you're doing. It's we got to keep doing what we're doing because there's not much else we can do right now.
Yeah, I mean, they dug this hole. Now they have to deal with it. I get the people that wanted Pete Carmichael gone. But this isn't a Ken Dorsey situation in Buffalo where you had a ready-made offensive coordinator already on staff. If they fire, and they're obviously not going to if they haven't done it by now, during the season. But you can't fire Pete Carmichael because what would that mean? That would mean promoting Ronald Curry, who probably isn't ready to take on play calling duties, or most likely Doug Marrone. In other words, you would have the same old on offense, just a different name wearing the headset. You can't fire Dennis Allen in the middle of the season because same reason. Who are you going to promote to be the head coach? You can't bring right. You can't bring players in off of the street, thinking that this isn't Madden. A refrain me, Brendan always use. This isn't Madden where you could go into the free agency at any point in the season and see all pro players still available. They signed Jason Pierre-Paul yesterday. Well, it became official today to try to inject some life into a dead ass pass rush. And people were pissed. He's old, he's over the hill, or is smart. People think they're being smart. Well, can he play left tackle? Can he call offensive plays? Look, they're addressing one of the many needs on this team with with one of the few potential options out there. JPP, he's not going to start. He's going to be a situational pass rusher, probably to give Cam a little bit of rest. So maybe Cam has some energy late in the game. That's my hunch. But you're not going to find an all-pro pass rusher at this point in the season. You're not going to find a guy to fix your offensive play calling. You're not going to find a quarterback. You're not going to find a head coach. This is week 10. Well, now week 11 of the NFL season. You've dug this hole. Now you got to deal with it.
Well, and then some people are like, well, why didn't you just trade for Chase Young? Why didn't you trade for the other guy, Sweat from Washington? Okay, both of them in the final year of their contracts. They went for third-round picks. Oh, guess what? We don't have a third-round pick. Oh, they went for four. Oh, there's that hit on Joe Montana. We went for they could have gotten for a fourth-round pick. Oh, we don't have a fourth-round pick. All we got is a second-round pick from the Broncos and our first-round pick. So you want to give up that second-round pick? Okay, give up a second-round pick
for a guy you might not be able to re-sign. So
right, you're already over the salary cap. Now, granted, Loomis can work his magic and figure out ways, and part of it is for you guys who are sick of Derek Carr. Part of it is restructuring Derek Carr so he's gonna have a longer tenure here.
Yep.
So you got to deal with that. But yeah, these are things that they can do. But bringing up a Chase. Oh, and Chase Young, he gets hurt a lot too. Didn't we just get rid of a guy who was at Minnesota now because he's always hurt, no matter how talented he is? And you want to bring him another one back? I mean, come on. I get it. You know his name, and there are times where he looks like a dominant player. But you honestly believe that Chase Young or Sweat were going to stay healthy for the rest of the, 7 games that are left? Or do you give up that second-round pick, then come draft day, here we go. Saints have a first-round pick, and when I'm not counting the compensatory picks that we may or may not get, don't get another pick until the 5th round. How happy are you going to be about rebuilding this team if you only have one pick in the first 2 days of the draft? You'd be pissed. That's the thing. I always write it on Twitter and Facebook. The Saints need to trade to get all these players. Saints fans come draft day. How come we don't have any draft picks? Because you traded them all away.
Yep.
That's what happens to them. Teams that have a shitload of draft picks have either traded players away for draft picks or trade down and hoard them. So you can't be both. You either got to be a seller on trade deadline, like the Washington Redskins. I'll call them that. Washington Redskins are right now. Or you are an aggressive team that trades up to get the players you want and trades picks away to get other veteran players from other teams. It's one or the other. Um, JPP, JPP is going to be a situational pass rusher. That's what they brought him in for. Rotational player. They're hoping to get him on third downs to have somebody come in there and rush the passer because
Mm-hmm.
outside of Carl Anderson, nobody else is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, expect to see him on third down. They don't blitz anymore because they drop everybody off in coverage. Too far, but they drop them off in coverage. But the other thing I want to bring up, I kind of touched on a little bit, and we need to go more into this. How the rest of the NFC South is just absolute garbage. We already know about the Panthers. The Panthers want to fire their coach. And I was told all off season the Panthers was a smart team because they brought in all these great coaches and they did all these things and they traded a pick, traded all these picks, including their first round of this year, to move up to get the quarterback they supposedly wanted. But now we're hearing Frank Reich say, I really wanted C.J. Stroud instead. Which, granted, the way the Texans are playing, he does look like the much better choice. The Bucs are the Bucs. I expected the Bucs to play about the way they're playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have too much talent on defense. They have too much talent to be complete garbage. But once you got Baker Mayfield in there, you're going to get the roller coaster with Baker Mayfield, and that's what you're seeing right now. The Falcons. You were talking about the Giants. Thank God the Giants exist. Thank God the Falcons exist. Because I think in 2 weeks we're playing loser leaves town game.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a rematch at the end of the season. And the guy who loses both those games come Monday isn't going to have a job anymore. And the Falcons have already given the dreaded, he has my vote of confidence endorsement. So you already know that Arthur Smith is on thin ice. But man, they are wasting talent too. You draft Bijan Robinson, you don't use him. You draft Kyle Pitts, you can't use him. You don't know what to do with him. You don't have a quarterback. You've got two, mediocre guys. I mean, it's our mirror image. Defense is underachieving. They've got former Saints players on their team, and the offense it just can't get out of its own way unless it can run the football. Because they have no passing game. So I really feel like that this first game, Thanksgiving weekend, is going to be the first block in the loser leaves town. Is that how you kind of see this?
Yeah, it sure feels that way. And you're right. The Falcons are the Saints' mirror image in a lot of ways. Absolutely mind-numbing, dysfunctional coaching. The defense is the exact opposite of what the Saints are. The Falcons' defense plays lights out in the first 2 quarters, and then either gets drunk in the locker room or forgets to come out altogether in the second half. The offensive play calling, like I said, mind-numbing dysfunction. They could be a very physical offense when they want to be, but they want to get away from that. They seem determined to get away from that, even though they drafted everybody to play that way. We've gone on a 65-minute rant about the Saints offense and defense. I feel like if the Saints lose to the Falcons next weekend, they're mathematically by no means even close to out of it. But again, that just feels like another nail in the coffin. If the Falcons lose to the Saints, especially if the Buccaneers string together a couple of wins in a row, again, that doesn't mathematically eliminate Atlanta, but they're a lot closer to being out of it. They're already talking about in Week 12, needing a few wins in a row and needing help. Never a situation you want to be in. This this almost the whole NFC South feels this way, but this feels like the first divisional matchup down the road. Falcons, Bucks, Saints, Bucks are going to be a couple more of them, but this feels like the first divisional matchup in the final stretch of the season. Where you're gonna maybe figure out who. I don't even want to say wins the attrition. Who is the least dysfunctional out of these three teams left? Because I'm already kind of ruling the Panthers out of it.
Oh yeah. So you got 4 divisional games left in the final 7. You got at Falcons. You've got home against the Panthers. You got at Tampa, and then the end of the season home against the Falcons. So I mean, if you have any delusions of winning this division, and I still think they have a great shot of winning this division because they have the ability. The question is, can they string together 2 or 3 wins? And if you win, 3 of those 4 divisional games, assuming that Tampa's one of those wins, you probably win the NFC South. Okay. If you get swept by Tampa, you're not winning the NFC South because Tampa's schedule is soft enough as well that they can string together enough wins to win the division. But, you should win all 4 of these games on paper. You get to play the Lions. That's the only winning team you have left on the schedule. So that's probably a loss. You can afford that loss because you're going to be the 4th seed if you win the division. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So not really worried about seeding or anything like that. Or tiebreakers. You got the Rams who are in free fall, and that's on a Thursday night. And unfortunately, that's at Los Angeles a week after you play Tommy DeVito in the Giants. And I really hope he stays starting quarterback, because I got so many good fellow jokes.
Me too.
Geared for this. I mean, but the problem is he played Dallas last week, and Dallas beat him up so bad that his mother couldn't hold an open coffin funeral. He had to have a closed coffin on that one. So he may not be the starter, but I don't know who is. It might be Tyrod Taylor, but he's on IR. I don't think he'll be back for that. And I don't know who else they can go to, because Danny Dimes is on IR with a torn ACL. So, talking about pulling people off the street, who do you pull off the street now to play quarterback for the Giants? And it's so funny because Giants were a team that last year, this was Coach of the Year, Brian Daboll. They seem to have figured out a formula to make this offense work, give the ball to Barkley, and let Danny Dimes throw some deep passes occasionally, but it's pretty much a running base team, and the defense got turnovers and played well enough with a pass rush to make teams go 3 and out so they can go ahead and run their offense. And it's like everything blew up in their face this year.
Yeah.
Their secondary stinks. They've got some good players on defense, but the defense is not very good. And their offense is garbage. Absolute garbage. There's nothing they do well. So, again, a mirror image of the Saints. So, these all winnable games. The Rams, that would be a heck of a game for the secondary to deal with. We've got to get better pass rushing, but we should be able to beat those guys because Matthew Stafford doesn't intimidate me anymore. You've got 2 good receivers, but you should be able to beat up on that offensive line and get pressure on him. He's not a mobile quarterback, so you don't have to worry about him running. So you should be able to get to him. So, it's like we talk all this stuff, and then you look at the schedule and go, but there's no reason why we can't win. But
right.
It's up here.
And I mean, you chalk off and I've been watching the Lions a lot more lately. They're fast, and they're aggressive. The Lions could come into New Orleans and win this game 50-13. I truly believe that. But say you give a loss to the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Say you go to L.A., which has been a city of horrors for the Saints historically, and you lay an egg against a not very good Rams team. Yeah, I see it. Just nice segue.
Yeah.
And you mentioned going 3-1 against the NFC South. As long as that one loss isn't to the Buccaneers. Well, you've gone 3-1 against your remaining divisional foes. And you beat the Giants. You lose to maybe you split
Detroit.
against the Falcons or something. You lose to Detroit. You lose to the Rams. That still puts them at 9-8, which probably, as you said, will probably win this division.
Yeah.
And I write, I suggest things like that in Twitter or in my articles, excuse me. And the idiots come back at me and how could you talk like this with as awful as this team is playing? Open your eyes. Use a tiny bit of logic in that pea brain of in that brain size that would make a dinosaur envious. And you realize that this team, as long as Dennis Allen teams are now 1-11 against teams with a 500 or better record when they play them. Man, that's the mark of a bad team, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. But still, they are playing fellow bad teams the rest of the way.
I was going to say, did you not watch that game last night with the Broncos and the Bills? And the Bills are supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. Those are two bad teams playing each other.
Yes.
The Giants getting demolished in the two games they played against the Cowboys. The Giants have outscored 89-17, or something ridiculous. Like they beat them 40-0 the first game of the season. There are a lot of bad football teams out there. The Jets stink. The Bengals lost the other night and the other day, and the Bengals were supposed to be the team that had finally turned the corner and getting healthy and getting better. The Bengals stunk. The Raiders stink. The Raiders-Jets game was terrible.
Yeah,
I didn't even watch that. And they're talking about the Heidi game and something like that. I'm like, yeah, that's back when those two teams were good.
Mm-hmm. The Jaguars got taken behind the woodshed by the 49ers at home.
Yeah, the Jaguars stink. I'm sorry. They have bad coaching too. All those people who wanted Doug Peterson, I kept saying, man, you need to see what happened when he was with the Eagles. He got that one magical year where he went to the Super Bowl and won, but after that, they were terrible. And it was bad clock management, bad offensive scheming, all the things that we bitch about, Doug Peterson does. And that's why Doug Peterson's Jaguars are like this, because they've got the talent to win, but they stink. And when they play badly, they stink. And it was nothing they did against the Saints. I was like, oh, man, that's such a great scheme. No, we just played terribly.
Yeah.
There was nothing great about that team. They got a lot of talent on that team, but there's nothing good about that team. So, so to sit there and say, yeah, the Saints can make a run. Oh, that's crazy. The Saints can't make a run. Yes, they can, because all these teams are just as bad or worse than the Saints.
Yeah, so I mean, the question about the Saints is, will the Saints make the run? Based off of what we've seen, it's hard to say yes. So I get where some of these people are coming from, but again, nobody should be throwing in the towel here. You look at the remaining schedule, you look throughout the NFL. Even the Philadelphia Eagles should be at the top of everybody's power rankings right now. Certainly mine. And I still believe that they are the most complete team in football. But Philadelphia has not played their best ball yet. They've been in a position to lose a lot of the games that they have won, and now they're coming up on a murderer's row, like 4 or 5 straight games of teams that will almost definitely be in the playoffs against them. The Kansas City Chiefs, Chiefs look off. Their defense has impressed me, but yeah, this is not an Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes offense. If you watched any Kansas City Chiefs football,
No.
yeah, Bengals you mentioned. I think the Bengals are my AFC Super Bowl pick, and I'm staying with it.
Mm.
But they're a lot of up and down too. Miami Dolphins are nothing but frauds. You put them up against a physical team, that's going to beat them around a little bit, and then, they'll fold like a cheap suit. Buffalo Bills overrated, and I think they're showing that.
Mm.
Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore's never going to win a big game as long as Lamar Jackson is a quarterback. If they could if you keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket, you beat the Baltimore Ravens. It's that simple.
You don't let him
Pittsburgh
run.
Steelers. Pittsburgh
You don't let
Steelers.
him run.
Pittsburgh Steelers. They play hard football, but you want to talk about another bad offense? That's one in Pittsburgh. Cleveland Browns. You're never going to win anything with Deshaun Watson. The AFC's Kirk Cousins. Teams like the Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, they're still learning how to win, so they're going to be up and down too. This NFL is wide open right now. Am I saying that
Yeah,
because
there's
I
a
think the
lot of
Saints are going to go on a run? No, I don't think the Saints are going to go on a run, but I think that they are capable of winning this dysfunctional battle of attrition to at least come out of the NFC South.
yeah. I mean, I'm not impressed with Seattle. I think
No.
if we had to play Seattle in a playoff game, that's a team we probably could beat because the few things we do well, Seattle does not defend well. So running the football, for example, with Taysom Hill, they can't. They still haven't stopped Taysom Hill. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule like, okay, let's say Atlanta's a win because you're coming out of a bye and you want to prove something because you're playing an old favorite Atlanta. You beat Atlanta, okay. I know some people are like, oh, you may not beat Atlanta. Well, we beat Atlanta a lot in Atlanta. It's at home we tend to lose to Atlanta, but Detroit lost. Carolina is ready to quit. They really are. That
Yep.
they don't respect that coach. They don't. The team is just totally dysfunctional. Um, you know, Carolina, we win that game. Giants, that's probably a win just because the Giants are that bad. Um, let's say for the sake of argument, you do lose to the Rams. I don't think we will, but you lose to the Rams. Okay, this is pretty much the kind of way we played this season. Win,
Mm-hmm.
loss, 2 wins, loss. Now you're playing at Tampa. That's probably the one you win because you're playing in Tampa, and it's a divisional game. It's a game you want, game you need. So you win that one. So look, all of a sudden, that Atlanta game at the end of the season is to decide whether you go 9-8 or 10-7. What are we saying all this time? Win, loss, 2 wins, loss, win. Is it another win or is it a loss this time around? That is completely consistent with the way this team plays.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry if you don't like hearing this because there are people who don't like hearing this because they want Dennis Allen fired and they want us to
Yeah.
lose every game that's left. So there's no chance of Dennis Allen staying on this team. But that's what is this? Oh, an assessment. Never mind. I all of a sudden get a tweet with Pete Carmichael's picture on it. I'm like, okay, something happened I don't know about. Um, but yeah, so that would be a totally Saints way to end the season. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, and whether Allen gets fired or not, if they lose all their games, I'm still not convinced he gets fired. Just because Loomis gave Mike Ditka 3 years, and it was clear in year one that Ditka was not the guy. The Saints are going to give Dennis Allen at least 3 years to figure something out, to make these changes. So you got to get used to that. You got to get that mindset in there because if you've got 4 coaches who get fired at the end of this season in the NFC South, then you start throwing in the Washington team, the Raiders are already looking for a new coach. Let's throw in, well, Arizona's not going to fire them because they've already decided to tank. But let's say Sean McVay retires, because he almost retired a couple years ago. That's a lot of coaches that
Hmm.
teams are looking for as a head coach. There's not that many coordinators out there. So, unless you go dip into the college ranks, you really don't have many coaches to choose from. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of, the Giants may fire their coach after this year. The Packers may fire their coach.
Yeah. Bears.
Um, the Bears, yeah, they may blow up the whole damn thing again. So there's a lot of head coaching options going to be out there. So I don't know what's going. Yeah, the Bills, the Bills may fire Sean McDermott just because the expectations were
Uh-huh.
that you were going to the Super Bowl, and you may not even make the playoffs
Yep.
because you're 5-5 too. The Bills are in the same boat as the Saints, and yeah, they fired their offensive coordinator, but they can afford to do it, and they're worried about job security because the expectations were you were going to the Super Bowl. We finally
Hmm.
have the team to beat Patrick Mahomes to go to the Super Bowl, and they don't have it. They don't have it, and they're going to want. And it's the defense that stinks more than the offense for the Bills. And McDermott's a
Yeah.
defensive coach, so I mean, it's so many things that are up in the air. If you have 10 to 12 vacancies, Loomis may say, you know what? I don't know where we're going to find another coach to bring in here that's going to be better than Allen, because I may hire an offensive equivalent of Dennis Allen. I may hire, some guy to come in here. Yeah, the offense is going to be okay, and the defense is going to stink. Have I really improved
Hmm.
this team? You know, it's so many options, and I don't know what college coach, not Deion Sanders. I mean, don't get me started on that. I mean, that's a showman.
Well,
He's
everybody, yeah, and he is, and everybody loves to talk about Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for Detroit. And I'd love him too, but he's going to be the hottest name out there. You really think the Saints want to get into a bidding war? When their roster is already possibly in purgatory, not salary cap hell, but purgatory, because you have to rebuild in spots that you're old in, and you're still waiting for other young guys that you've already used to fill other spots, to come through. Uh, the last Ben Johnson, Matt was Kellen Moore. We've seen the luster come off of his star. We've seen the luster come off of Eric Bieniemy's star a little bit. So yeah, I mean, just like Alan says over and over and over again. You
why do
might.
you hate me? Why do you hate me, Matt? Matt Nagy? Oh my God! I'd rather take Jim Harbaugh and his stealing signs.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, yeah. No, I do not want Matt Nagy. Oh my God, can you imagine Matt Nagy replacing Dennis Allen? I think we'd have riots in the streets.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's basically what you're talking about. Yeah, I forgot the Chargers will probably fire that coach, and that's when maybe Kellen Moore gets a shot. Because that's another team that's ultra talented. Well, their defense stinks, but offensively they're ultra talented. So, yeah, you know, I just don't see it. I'm sorry. I see another year where they give him one more shot. You got to fix the offense, and he probably fires all his offensive coaches and tries to fix his team that way. Well, it's the bye week this week, so there's no games to worry about. Um, Enjoy bad football, because I really want people to watch these games. I want you to
Yeah.
watch this bad football and sit there and go and look at these teams and go, Ken Dorsey might be an option for offensive coordinator, not head coach.
Yeah. Not a head
Uh,
coach.
Yeah, I think Ken Dorsey may be an option for Dennis Allen as offensive coordinator. The problem with Dennis Allen too is I don't know how many offensive minded people does he even know. You know,
That's a great
um,
point.
you know, I don't know. Oh, great, great. I still remember what was that guy's name? He was a coach.
Latrell Street, Sprewell, and
Well,
PJ
there we go.
Carlissimo.
There it is. I knew I had to think about it. I kept thinking he was the coach of St. John's, and he became coach of the Knicks. And yeah, the chokehold. Yes, yes. Oh God, I can't believe that the Pels. If they fire Dennis Allen, I'm gonna go on my rant about how you going to trust his ownership when they can't even get a good head coach for the damn Pelicans. Yeah. But anyway, what do you have coming up in the Bayou Blitz this week? Are you playing? Are you doing it tomorrow night, or are you going to do it Thursday night again?
Yeah, we are doing it tomorrow night. Yeah, just more bye-week woes. Talking about the possibility. What possibilities do the Saints have of stepping it up in the second half? I know we're past the halfway point, but down the stretch, what players we expect to step forward. What players have been pleasant surprises, because there have been a few. What players have been the biggest disappointments? Basically, the kind of thing we used to talk about at midseason, and now we just save for bye week. That kind of thing. Talking about the state of the NFC South, something that you and I touched on a great deal tonight. Maybe running down, through the rest of the league. Again, something is something you and I touched on a great deal tonight too. So, I mean, a lot of the same old. But we're gonna look a little bit closer at the roster. Something that again we used to do. I always do at midseason. Now we just save for bye week filler.
Yeah. For a change, while you were on the show, I was able to dig up some 93, 94, and 95 footage here because I know you like seeing Jim. I know you like
Yeah.
seeing Quinn early out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I didn't get to talk about it, but when we were looking at some of the 94 footage, this is 93, but some of the 94 footage. Oh, this is also funny. The Georgia Dome was brand new in this highlight package, and they've already torn this stadium down, and
Yeah.
their third stadium, and the Saints still playing the Superdome. But anyway, one of the things that I wanted to point out, the Saints had their throwback uniforms on for the 94 season, and it was the only year the Saints ever wore the road throwback uniforms, which is basically the color rush with gold pants.
Yes.
Gold pants with the stripes. And I love that look. I
I
like
did
that
too.
look almost as good as the road, I mean the home black jersey throwback, to the 67 look. But I really wish just once the Saints would dig up gold pants, old gold pants with the stripes, and wear them with the color rush jerseys as their road jerseys. I would really enjoy that. Just something different. I hate the all white jerseys. I really do. I like the color rush all white, but I really hate the white jersey because it's just there's nothing to it. They need the stripes or something on the pants. They need something on, to same problem with the black. All black, you need more gold to make the jersey look good, and it's just not there. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic. I didn't want to get on. I just wanted to mention that earlier, and I didn't get a chance to, when they were showing it, to point it out to anybody. But yeah, old Jim Everett on that footage. I thought you'd appreciate that with your jersey.
I did.
So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. And bye week. Enjoy the bad football. We'll talk about the Falcons next week. We'll talk about what we saw over the weekend, how it impacts the Saints. I have no confidence the Bucs are going to win this week against the 49ers. I really don't. So the Falcons are 4-6. So even if they win, they're still going
They're on a bye too. They are on a bye too.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. They're on the same bye as we are. So,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is Carolina playing this week? Do you know?
I believe they are, but I don't know who. Yeah, because the Panthers have already had their bye.
Okay, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna lose to them anyway. It's
Right.
just amazing. It's another bad game we had. The Bears Panthers game. That was a paraplegic pillow fight. Thank you, Bob, for sticking with me all this time. Thank you guys for sticking with us. I promise next week will be much more upbeat because it's Falcon Hate Week, but we had the event this week. So anyway, thank y'all. We'll see you next time. We're under the dome. Good night, everybody.